Hello, Facebook. So this is Opera 101 with Cleveland Opera Theater. My name is Megan Thompson, and I am the Director of Education and Outreach. Opera 101 is for all ages. So each day we'll discuss one aspect of opera to help our listeners better understand the art form. And if you have any questions, you can either submit them in the comments on this video, or you can email it to us so we can answer it in a future Opera 101 session. Today's question, we're actually going to kick off this whole series with just an overview of what exactly is opera and where did it come from, because I think that's going to be a good start to our Opera 101 daily series. So again, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and submit them, and I will try to keep an eye on the comment section and answer as we go along. So I think first it's always helpful if we all have an agreement of what we're talking about when we say the word opera. So a lot of folks assume that it means that it's something in classical form and it's all something that's sung through. That's more or less accurate. So the couple little caveats there. Classical, it is classical in terms of the vocal style, but it is not classical in the musical style. And if that doesn't make sense, we'll attack that in a future Opera 101. But just bear in mind that classical is actually referring to a specific period of time, not every bit of music that's in that style. In terms of being sung through, that is more or less correct. Most opera is sung through 100%. Some spoken dialogue as well, such as Singspiel from the German tradition. So every now and then an opera will have some dialogue in it as well. But the general good way to remember what opera is that it's something that's sung through in a very classical vocal style. Now, where did it come from? That's another really great question, right? So opera's been around for a few hundred years now, and it really became opera as its own art form in the late 1600s. Prior to when we started having these operas that were sung through, we had something else called oratorios. Oratorios were very much like operas, where you still had characters singing on stage, you still had a plot or a storyline, but the single biggest difference between what an oratorio was and what then became opera was that oratorios were usually something very religious in nature, and it was usually not staged. So it was generally performed in a church, just on a stage, just to tell a dramatic story. Whereas opera took that a step further, and they said, well, this is a great tradition of having something sung through, but now let's actually stage it. Let's have it all memorized, because that was the other thing. A lot of times oratorios weren't memorized. So let's drop those books, let's have it all memorized, and let's start actually acting out all of our drama instead of just standing and singing. Are there exceptions to the rule? Of course. There are always going to be exceptions to the rule. But again, for the sake of 101, we're going to keep it nice and easy. Oh, yes, Ella, opera is very much like a play. Instead of just talking like they do in a play, they sing to each other. But plays are a great way to think about what an opera is. Anybody else have questions? I see we have several viewers. So this is a great time to start shooting me questions, because otherwise I will just keep rambling, which I'm more than happy to ramble. I don't see any yet. All right. The other thing that's really cool is the church tradition, I should say, is really important / cool at the beginning of opera. The church tradition was really focused on, obviously, religious themes. As opera started to evolve out of that, it became a matter of how can we start taking other themes and putting them to music. A lot of the early operas started looking at the Greek tradition and started using Greek mythology, Greek storylines. You know, we start seeing like Orfeo or Eurydice. You know, we start seeing that kind of stuff developing at the beginning. Then, as opera develops, we start seeing more and more stories breaking off. That's what we'll start talking about in future 101, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. The other thing that's really interesting is at the beginning of opera, back when it first started, this really was a status symbol. It was a way for our rich folks, our folks who are in charge, you know, the Medicis in Florence, Italy, for instance, to really show their status. So they would have an opera written that they could then perform at their home for their guests. So it became a chance to really show, look how cool we are, look what we are producing here for us. So that's kind of a nice little dip into what opera is, how it got started. So I'm going to ask again, any questions before we sign off and we wait till tomorrow? All right, if you think of any, I'm going to drop my email address here in the comments, and you can email me, and then one of our awesome Opera 101 hosts will get back to you. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Join us tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. for more Opera 101.